All right, so we're going to be talking about mobile high quality, high volume spay neuter 101, how to bring spay neuter where it's needed. All right, so just a little bit as far as my personal journey for people who don't know who I am. So my name is Michelle Gonzalez. I'm a veterinarian. I graduated from Ohio State back in 1999, and I completed an internship at the University of Missouri, Columbia in 2000. It was an internship in small animal medicine, surgery, and critical care. Originally, I thought I was going to be a surgeon, and that things changed. I moved to Ohio, and I worked in private practice for 7 years. And during those 7 years, I realized that there was a huge problem with cat overpopulation and dog overpopulation, especially in southern Ohio, rural areas. And I was wondering why all these animals kept getting brought up to Columbus, to central Ohio, and they said that there were no vets in the area. And to me, that sounded really odd because I thought that there were veterinarians everywhere. So I didn't understand the concept of a veterinary desert. So the root of the problem, I'm kind of a problem solver. So trying to figure out how do we eliminate these animals from having to come to central Ohio. So, whoops, here, excellent. So start looking at the problem. What is the problem? Lack of accessible and affordable veterinary care in rural communities. But I do want to let everybody think about the fact that we have to stop thinking that only rural areas need help, because the veterinary shortage is huge. And there are even areas in central Ohio and Columbus that even though there are many veterinarians, there's still a shortage because there's not enough vets to take care of everybody. Second, we're talking about accessible, but we're also talking about affordable care. You can have 5 veterinary clinics in the area, but if you don't have the money to be able to take your animals to those clinics, then there might as well not be any. The overpopulation of animals is a continuing and exponential problem, and without intervention, balance is hard, if not impossible. Who owns these cats? Nobody owns these cats, right? Like, nobody wants to take responsibility. We have people that are caretakers for the community cats, but then when somebody comes in and says, is this your cat? They don't necessarily want to take responsibility. The other thing is somebody may be able to spend money in feeding these cats, but they cannot necessarily spend money in taking care of them financially as far as spaying, neutering, and providing preventive and sick care. The shelters and the pounds are overwhelmed, and many do not have the resources to provide sterilization, and they add to the problem. So many rescues and shelters adopt animals out that are not fixed, and then months later, somebody will bring the cat back and say, here, I had a litter and I can't have any kittens, so here's the mom and the kittens. So they add to their own problem. So what is the solution? The solution is mobile, high quality, high volume spay neuter. And these are different examples of how that process can be done. The picture on the left is the Rascal Unit, which is my truck. So the Rascal Unit is a set of mobile clinics that provide high quality, high volume sterilization throughout the state of Ohio. The picture in the center is a pop-up clinic. This picture in particular is from a clinic in Puerto Rico done by a group called Veterinarians for Puerto Rico that invited me and a lot of other veterinarians to come down to do spay and neuter for the community. So they have all of these individual areas for veterinarians to come in and do surgery. The one on the right, similar to the Rascal Unit, but it's just a motorhome that has been refurbished. This is Licking County TNR's Tipmobile, and they refurbished this motorhome to be able to have a surgery suite inside and be able to offer low-cost care at a high quality to the community. So why do we want high volume? Well, if we think about it, if we sterilize only one pet from a community, we're helping that pet, but are we helping the community? We're not, right? If we have 25 males and 25 females in one area, after one reproduction cycle, we have 25 males, 25 females at an average of 4 kittens per female cat, we end up with 100 kittens. So in just 60 days, the population growth goes from 50 cats to 150 cats. And kittens can start having kittens at 4 months of age. So in only 4 more months, that number is going to be another 150 cats. Now, one clinic impact, if we can do 50 cats in one day from the same area, we have no reproduction cycle. So in 60 days, 90 days, 100 days, we have zero growth. So we just have those 50 cats. Now, why high quality? Low cost does not mean cheap care. So we have to follow minimal standards of care or higher to ensure that the patients are safe and decrease the risk of complications. If we think about these patients that come to our clinics, especially in rural areas, and when we're doing TNR clinics, a lot of these animals are high risk because they're going to have fleas, they're going to have parasites. We don't know what their overall health status is. They may have leukemia or FIV. They may have anemia and other problems that we are not going to know ahead of time. So they're already at a higher risk. So we have to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to decrease the risk for them. And high volume is not achieved by cutting corners. It's efficiency, training, and teamwork. So it's not about doing things fast because you're rushing through it. It's because you know how to be efficient and perhaps use instruments in a better way, make smaller incisions, do things that are going to help you do a lot more surgeries in a shorter period of time. And with high volume comes low cost because time is money. The time that the salary of the veterinarians, the support staff, everything costs money. So if we can cut down on time, we are going to be saving money. The other benefit of doing high volume is that whenever you're purchasing things in high quantities, you're going to get quantity discounts. So we are able to continue to use high quality instruments. We can use high quality suture material, syringes, and everything is single use. And we are doing so at a lower cost because we're purchasing so much. So why mobile? When we create a stationary facility, we limit the help radius, while mobile allows us to travel to specific areas in need. So if we were to help 30 animals from different areas, again, we're just helping 30 individuals. But if we go to a small area, a target area, we make an impact in the population of the community. And there's decreased overall overhead compared to establishing clinics in each one of the counties. On this picture, that is a dot in the center of Athens County, Ohio. And then the circle is a 25-mile radius. Now, 25 miles in rural counties can take way longer than 30 minutes. It can take up to an hour. So we figured this is about as long as people are going to be willing to drive or be able to drive to take their animals to have surgery. Well, if we put this clinic in that point in Athens County, that circle represents where we can go. Now, if we go ahead and have a mobile clinic, we can serve a lot of different places. So this is a map from 2022 of all the different counties that the Rascal Unit had either traveled to, was currently traveling, or was getting ready to go to the next year. So as you can see, we can spread through most of the state. The interesting part about this picture is that if we were to compare it to a map of rural areas in Ohio that have the highest number of individuals living below or near poverty, and also locations that have no veterinarians or a shortage of veterinarians, it very closely matches this map. And this is not something that we set out to do. Again, when I started doing this, I didn't really understand the concept. And this just created itself naturally because these people, these areas wanted the help. They wanted the service. They needed the access to care. So they started calling us to help them with it. And that's how this all got created. So our mobile clinic, we have a surgery suite with 2 surgery tables. Each table has an anesthesia machine, a scavenger system for the anesthesia, and monitoring equipment. We have a prep table that has its own anesthesia machine. And that prep table, we can do cat neuters, we can do dentals, we can do some minor procedures and smaller dogs and cats as well. We have multiple holding cages for patients awaiting surgery. The clinic itself is self-sustaining. It has a generator for power and its own water tank. And then we have trained staff. We have a veterinarian, we have at least 1 registered technician, and we have 2 additional team members. The need for registered technicians varies state to state. In the state of Ohio, veterinary technicians must be licensed and certified to be able to do things like anesthesia, induction, and assisting with surgeries. So we have at least one technician to support the veterinarian, and then additional team members to help with things like cleaning the instruments and wrapping them and autoclaving them so that we can have them ready, with recovering the patients, with restraint, with vaccinations, and everything else that is going to be needed. So very similar to what you would find in a brick and mortar facility, just shrunk down to a 33 or a 28-foot truck. Now with pop-up clinics, the necessity of the pop-up clinic is going to be a clean temperature control facility with electric and water. So a gymnasium can be used, or a meeting and event room. Again, as long as it's an area that can be cleaned so that we can provide as clean an environment as possible for surgery. There's going to be portable surgery stations, single or multiple surgeons. You can have, depending on what you have available, surgery tables, anesthesia machines, then a prep area with its own anesthesia machine. This is going to require pop-up cages and crates for patient holding, and then trained staff, and the number is going to be dependent on the number of stations. Because these areas are a lot bigger, you need more people for recovery, more people for check-ins, for evaluations of the patients, prep, and all of that. So the pre and post area. When you're hosting one of these clinics, or if you're planning on doing one of these clinics in your community, you want to make sure that you have a good area to be able to receive people, to receive the patients, and then an area for the patients to go and recover. So this example on the right is actually one of our facilities where we have a tent where we recover the cats. So this is another picture of the tent. If you're going to be doing cat clinics, TNR, or anything like that, I highly recommend getting a tent that you can zip down, because it just makes it a much safer environment, both for prepping and for recovering the patients. Cats, when they're going into surgery or coming out of surgery, sometimes they can wake up very, very quickly and go crazy. Also, you may have a cat in a cage that looks like it's going to be okay, and as soon as you open that cage, that cat comes flying out of there. So with the tent, you can keep them controlled. So if you're going to do one of these clinics, you're going to bring one of these clinics to your community, whether it be a mobile clinic or if it's going to be a pop-up clinic. What are the things that need to happen? Well, you need to have a veterinary team, whether you look to have your own veterinary team or you're going to hire a team. It can also be through different organizations that will hire teams or veterinarians as independent contractors. We need a local organization to host a clinic, staff and or volunteers, and we're going to talk a little bit more in detail about all these things. Funding, you want to research the need of your community. You want to have your facility, and then community education and involvement. The local organizations that host the clinics, for our organization, we use human organizations, rescues and shelters, and occasionally individuals like organized trappers, community, or officials. It's going to be very important that it is something that is well organized, because getting these clinics done takes a lot of time, effort, and money. And you want to make sure that the group that is organizing this has goals, has a mission, has everything set up, and has the funds to be able to do this project. Staff and volunteers. We want trained support staff or employees, and they're necessary. So you want to have a core group of reliable support for your main duties. Volunteers are super important. It's great to have volunteers to help with clinic duties, with patients, with clients, cleaning, and organization. But realistically, we cannot just rely on volunteers to do everything that needs to be done. We need to have trained support staff and employees. And then veterinary students. I keep hearing from some groups that, oh, veterinary students, they get in the way, they're slow, they this, they that. You know what? These are the veterinarians of tomorrow. So the best help that you can get for these clinics are going to be veterinary students. Veterinary students are hungry for information and hungry to help. So if you get them involved today, When they graduate, they may not go into shelter work, but they're more likely to come and help with shelter stuff. Funding sources. You want to have multiple different types of funding sources. Fundraisers are going to be important, and donations. You want to have sponsors. Occasionally, you can find different individuals that really believe in your cause, and they're going to help with funding different programs. Grants are available, as has been discussed during this weekend, and you want to charge for services. And not everything can be done for free. So even though we would love to offer spay neuter for free, it's not sustainable, it's not realistic. And a lot of people, you will find out, they don't need it for free. They just need it to be affordable and accessible. And charging for services will help you maintain and sustain what you're doing, your program. Our program, the Rascal Unit, it charges for the space and neuters, and it charges a low cost, but there is still a charge. Now, if there are individuals that cannot afford even the low charges that, or the low cost that we offer, there are ways to help them with different sources to help them be able to afford our cost. But you want to be able to charge for your services. You want to be sustainable. Some grants and some donations require that they're not the only source of funding for your program. They want to make sure that they're going to give you money to help you, but that you're going to be able to continue what you're doing. So if you're going to be doing something like that, you want to have a budget. And budgeting for a mobile clinic, even though it's low overhead, it can still get expensive. So you want to know what all your costs are going to be ahead of time. If you're going to be doing a mobile clinic, you're going to have lease expenses, utilities, gas for the vehicle, vehicle maintenance, and vehicle insurance. And some of these are things that you're going to be able to plan ahead, and some of them are not. Vehicle maintenance, for instance, you can plan on an oil change. However, you cannot plan on your vehicle being broken down. Supplies, surgical instruments and materials, and then medications, vaccines, and preventives. It is great to get things donated, but not everything can be donated. And you don't want to just use things, equipment and instruments that are of low quality just because they were donated. We want to make sure, again, that we're practicing high quality. Your staff, you're going to need your veterinarians, your technicians, your assistants, and a good clinic manager to help organize everything. With staff, we have to get away from the mentality that it's a low-cost clinic, so these veterinarians need to just volunteer their time. A lot of veterinarians have huge loans and expenses to pay. So it is important to properly pay these individuals that are working for you. Furthermore, like your technicians or your assistants are busting their butts helping all of these animals. High volume is really tiring. So you want to make sure that these people are well paid, so that they're helping the community, they're helping you, and they're also being able to take care of themselves. And then finally, the clinic. There's going to be a computer or file system. Usually mobile phones work best, and a Wi-Fi hotspot. What are our limitations? There are way more dogs and cats than there are spay neuter resources. I mean, if we didn't have this issue, we would not be here right now. Obtaining funds is not always easy. Now, one of the issues with obtaining funds not being easy is because we don't know where to look. There are way more resources than what we know. It just takes time and effort to find them. There is a lack of veterinarians trained in high quality, high volume sterilization. This is where getting those students engaged helps. This is where things like wet labs for veterinarians is going to help. You want to make sure to encourage people to become efficient in high quality, high volume sterilization techniques. And then some practice models are turning to high cost, low volume general practice. And this decreases the availability of services to the community. So putting everything together, what are the do's and don'ts? We want to have a plan. We don't want to wing it. For example, if you come to me and say, hey, we want you to bring your unit to my county, and I say, oh, okay, great. How many animals? I don't know, we can probably do 10, 15. Well, do you have a plan? No, but I'm sure that we can get the animals. I'm gonna tell you, nope, not right now. We want to have a plan. We want to make sure that we know what's happening, because we want to have the biggest impact in that target area. We want to engage the community. We don't want to alienate people. We're too used to going, especially online, and blaming people for the problem. And we are just constantly being negative about the humans in these animals' lives. And while the humans are usually the problem, we don't want to alienate them because we need them to help us. We need them to help with trapping. We need them to help with keeping their animals, with retaining them, with taking care of them. So when we're doing these projects, we want to engage the community. We want to let them know what we're doing. We want to let them know our plans and how it's going to help their animals and how it's going to help everybody in the community. We want to offer high quality services. We don't want to cut corners. We don't want to say, hey, can I have all your expired stuff? Because that doesn't sound right. That tells people the whole, you get what you pay for, it's correct. There is a little bit of leeway, but we want to make sure that we are offering as high quality a service as possible. Low cost clinics also come under a lot of scrutiny, especially by other veterinarians that say, again, you get what you pay for. So we want to have high quality services so that nobody can question the value of what these animals are getting. We want to collaborate. We don't want to be selfish. Many people in rescue and in the animal world just want to not deal with other people because they feel that they're doing it best. But it's so much better to work in teams. My practice, for instance, we rarely go places just on our own. When we go somewhere to offer spay neuter, we team up with local organizations. Why? Our voice is wider, our voice goes longer, and we're able to help each other out. So we want to do collaborations. We don't want to be selfish. It's not about us. Leave the ego aside. This is for the animals. And finally, be appreciative. Don't be demanding. Be appreciative in that when you're asking for help and somebody says, this is all that I can do, be appreciative because it's better than nothing. Don't be demanding because when we start demanding too much from people, they're just going to run away and not want to do anything. So that's the end of my presentation. I want to thank United Spay Alliance and the sponsors and supporters and all the amazing speakers that are joining us and all the people that have taken the time to join us. Huge shout out to TNR veterinarians, technicians, and support staff, TNR groups and organizations, and all the trappers and transporters that help us do what we do. There you go.
Hello, nice to see you. And like talking about mobile units while presenting from her mobile unit, y'all. Just saying.
Yes.
Oh man, all right. So, and now I didn't get a chance to read your bio to everyone today, but I do just want to mention that Dr. G is a member of the board of directors here at United Spay Alliance. She is on our veterinary shortage task force. I know that I have turned to her many, many times with, oh my gosh, this veterinarian has a question and I need another vet to help me answer it. And so she is really, really living and doing the work out there. And so I'm just so grateful. And like Stacy mentioned, she already spoke once today, right, Dr. G? And yep. You're out there in Cleveland. She's just spreading the spay neuter word out there. So we're very grateful to have you in our network and with us this weekend.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I do have a couple questions, and so we're just gonna kind of go a little all over, but we'll get through all these questions. And again, if folks, you have anything you're curious about, go ahead and drop it in that questions box. And so one question we have is, can vets or techs from other states work in the mobile unit in Ohio? So what is the licensing situation for vets in Ohio?
Yeah, Ohio has short-term licenses that are available. However, you still have to apply. So you have to go through the veterinary licensing board and get information on that. And then they give you licenses. I believe it's either 3 months or 6 months duration. So you can't just come here and do surgeries and then leave. There is no true just reciprocity type license in Ohio yet. Hopefully coming soon, but as of right now, that's the process. Now, it's not a super difficult process. So it is relatively easy to do.
Yeah, and so that word reciprocity is one that I learned getting into the vet shortage because I really hadn't thought about it. But the challenge is just in being a veterinarian and like obviously like any, I guess, credentialed professional, you're licensed in the state where you are working, but then that often that doesn't translate like if you cross state lines, right? And so you're very much limited as to where you're licensed.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
And one of the and that brings problems because of, for instance, like we are very big into teaching, and I get occasionally people from other states that will say, "Can I come to your clinic?" Since, especially since we teach students, can we come and learn with the students? And unfortunately, they can't unless they are licensed in Ohio.
And so I am curious to talk a little bit about teaching because we're getting into the training space ourselves here at USA. And something that I've heard is just that it can be challenging for vets to find somewhere to go to learn high volume, high quality, high volume spay neuter. And it can be daunting for them to step into that space, especially if they're not confident. So do you have any advice for groups who are maybe trying to cultivate more interest from veterinarians in their area and how to kind of approach that with them?
I would say the biggest thing is being patient, right? Because people that are trying to learn are scared, like you mentioned. So they're concerned about, are they going to think that I'm too slow or I'm not doing things right? Am I going to be able to learn how to do this? With high volume sterilization, we do these really small incisions, and so many people are afraid of, I'm not going to be able to get this done. So we need to help people through that fear, get that fear away, and then just be really, really patient and be very nurturing. So I'm not saying baby people. I don't baby people. My students will tell you I don't baby them. But just also not being rude, not being loud, just working through them, helping them figure things out, and then if there are mistakes, saying, okay, let's see what happened. Let's learn from our mistakes. So, today you do 3, tomorrow you do 7, the next day you do 10. They can see the improvement very quickly, and then helps them get motivated, builds their confidence.
Confidence is key, and giving them the time to learn, creating that safe space for learning, I think is something I have taken away from this. So we have a question. Can Dr. G teach in other states? Do you travel?
Well, it depends, right? So I am licensed in 2 states. I'm licensed in Ohio, and I'm licensed in Maryland currently. Depending on what I'm teaching, I can go to other states to teach, but I cannot do hands-on state surgeries unless it's a state with reciprocity or there's a temporary license that is available.
All right, and then I think we have a question that's more on the veterinary preferences side of things. What do you think about with like a pop-up clinic campaign with IV anesthesia?
I don't really understand the question, but I will tell you this. What we do for our clinics, we give sedation for the dogs. For the cats, they just get IM kitty magic, and then we intubate our female cats. We mask our male cats. So there is no IV anesthesia needed. With the dogs, we do IV drugs. So we give them sedation IM, and then we give them induction IV. So the same thing can be done on pop-up clinics. The pop-up clinics that I have worked on, the dogs have received IM medication as well.
Okay. Some clarification on that. It's if you don't have an anesthesia machine, I guess.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So in the state of Ohio, for instance, you have to have the ability to provide oxygen. So if you're going to have equipment to provide oxygen, you're usually going to be able to have anesthesia, gas anesthesia. So my preference is to have gas anesthesia because not everybody is going to go to sleep under just IVs. But way back 30 years ago, when I started working in a veterinary clinic, everything was IV and nothing was gas. So I have seen it work, and it works, but I also saw a lot of animals get really light and have issues because of it.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just reading these questions. Yeah, do you have contact with vet? Oh, so this person is located in Puerto Rico. They say we have a facility that can be a spay neuter clinic with a little work. We have limited ability to get a mobile unit. Do you have a contact with vets for Puerto Rico that I can ask these questions to regarding the use of our facility? Any Puerto Rico contacts?
I mean, if you reach out to veterinarians for Puerto Rico, they have a Facebook page and they are very active. So if you reach to Vets for Puerto Rico online, somebody will get back to you and be able to help you out with that.
All right,
Thank you
thank
for
you.
doing that. I wanted to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So as a mobile unit, and obviously you're traveling all around, does your team usually have to stay overnight at these different locations? And is that included in the budget if so?
So the majority of the places that we travel to are less than 2 hour drive. And even though that's a huge drive, we still do those in one day. So our normal work days are about 10 to 12 hours because the surgery time is only 6 to 8, but we have 2 hours there and back. Most of our staff likes to sleep in their own bed. So we try to have most of our clinics be one day. But there are some places that are over 2 hours that we do stay overnight and we do plan on our budget. So what we do is we will leave that morning and do the clinic, and then we stay overnight, and then we do a clinic on the second day and drive back. That way we are kind of saving a little bit on the time, but still being able to offer the services for a couple of days.
And so I don't know if folks have caught on, but today's theme is all about different ways to introduce spay neuter and different models for spay neuter. You know, this morning we heard from Dr. Mann, who has a stationary high volume brick and mortar clinic. We heard from Pat Chan, where they are literally piling all of their supplies onto a boat and ferrying them out to islands to do these MASH style clinics. You're talking to us about mobile units. We're going to hear from Rick Ducharme, who's going to talk about more of a private practice model. And so we have these different models to consider. And so I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit to the mobile spay neuter clinic model and what is maybe like pros cons as compared to like a stationary unit. Is there something that like brick and mortars don't ever have to think about this, you know, when you're dealing with a mobile unit?
Yeah, so I have had both. I had the Rascal Unit, and for about 11 years, we had the Rascal Animal Hospital, which was a brick and mortar. Now, it didn't only do spay and neuter, it did other things. However, it was also a low cost type of facility. So they were completely different entities, and they work very differently. So things that are great about mobile, like we explained, we can go anywhere. So if the place where we're based out of doesn't need spay neuter, we just go to where it's needed. There are some places that may need us to travel once a month. There are places that we go to twice a month. There are places that we go to every 3 months. So mobile gives us the ability to provide the service that is needed at the times that it is needed. However, that's where the stationary clinic is not going to be able to do that. You can offer free services, but if somebody has to drive 3 hours, they may not be able to do that. Even they may have to only drive 20 minutes, but you're talking about somebody that may be handicapped, that may not have resources, that may not have transportation. It doesn't matter if it's 5 minutes or 5 hours, they're not going to be able to do it. So that's going to be a great benefit of mobile or pop-ups compared to a stationary clinic. I think stationary clinics in areas that have a huge need are going to be more beneficial than having a mobile clinic. Because again, then with a mobile clinic, we're having to travel back and forth, whereas that stationary clinic is going to be able to provide the service to the community. The overhead for a mobile clinic overall is going to be less expensive than having a stationary clinic. So that's going to be another benefit. But we still have utilities to pay for the mobile clinic for the place where we store the truck. And the stationary clinic doesn't have other things like fuel. They don't have to fuel their clinic. They don't have the same types of maintenance. They don't have the problem that if the truck breaks, we can't work. The stationary clinic is unlikely to have a problem where they're just going to have to shut down because the facility is broken. Let's see, what other things? Sometimes the number of animals that can be done in mobile clinics is higher than the number of animals that can be done in brick and mortar clinics because we're having the animals rotate through. So we have a facility outside to hold the animals. We can bring anywhere between 10 and, depending if it's dogs and cats, 10 and 25 animals into the truck at once, and we can rotate them around. Whereas a lot of stationary clinics are going to have a limited area to be able to hold the animals. So they may not be able to get as many done as what we can get done. Off the top of my head, those are the biggest things.
And so, thinking of the logistics, and this came up in the questions, like, and this was something I didn't even think about. You know, you think about just the mobile unit driving around, but some of the other logistics, right, are somewhere to park that mobile unit when it's not in use. Are there other things that need to be considered? Like you don't have a brick and mortar, but do you have like an HQ, I guess, when it comes to that mobile unit?
Yeah, so you have to have a place to keep your unit. The units need to be plugged in, and you want to protect them from the elements. You don't want these units to be outside in the sun, in the rain, and the heat. Um, the I say you're going to you have to have a headquarters and have somebody that takes care of that place to be able to deal with questions, whether it be how to schedule or to be able to follow up with patients, right? So if a patient is having an issue, a concern after surgery, you want them to be able to get a hold of somebody so that even if we're not the ones that are going to be able to provide the aftercare, we can send them over to the aftercare. So yeah, it is really important to have this facility. Things that we also don't think about with a mobile facility is getting to the locations to do the clinics, because the location needs to have an adequate parking area for the clinic. We're talking about a 33-foot truck that needs to be on a flat surface. Not everywhere is a flat surface. So we want to make sure that it's nice and flat, that it's secure, and we have to watch for overpasses. A lot of people also don't think about that. There are some overpasses that are really low that the truck cannot get through. So creating maps and creating routes to get to different locations can also be a little bit of an issue.
And is there any like minimum size when it comes to like mobile unit? Is there a minimum of like what that even means?
As far as the truck itself, our smallest truck is 26 feet. And that is bumper to bumper. Our bigger truck is 33 feet, bumper to bumper. Clearly, we're more comfortable moving around in the 33-foot truck, especially if we have a lot of dogs compared to the 26. But it's really a matter of holding space for the patients. The surgery area is only probably about 10 by 10. It's a relatively small area. So the rest of the facility, the size of it is more for bringing the animals in, getting them prepped for surgery, and then getting them recovered.
And how many support staff are needed for a typical mobile clinic? How many animals can you do in a day?
So we schedule on average between 30 and 50 animals per day. That is one doctor, one technician, or 1 to 2 technicians, and 1 to 2 assistants. So we have total 1 vet and 3 to 4 support staff members for those 30 to 50 animals. And again, everybody is not rushing around. Everybody just knows what their job is. Everything is done very almost like factory-like. One goes on the table, the other one comes out, and the next person does their job. So everybody has to be in sync so that we can keep rotating through all the animals efficiently and safely.
And I know it can get quite cold in Ohio. Does like the winter weather impact how these mobile units run or the clinics that you can offer in the wintertime?
Yeah, it does. The cold itself is not a problem, it's the ice and the snow. So if we have over 2 inches of snow, the truck cannot travel. If the roads are icy, the trucks cannot travel. When I first got the trucks, in my head, I thought these things are super heavy, so they should do great in the snow. They don't. They slide all over the place, especially in the ice. They don't stop. You can get going. You can't stop moving. So that is one big problem that we have. Thankfully, the winters are not super harsh here, so we don't have to cancel a lot of clinics. But if you're doing this type of work, you want to have like during the winter time, we don't schedule as many clinics so that if we have to cancel a clinic, we have an extra day, an alternate day to give to the organizers. Getting these clinics set up, scheduling 30 to 50 animals takes a lot of work. And then all of a sudden telling people, hey, it's snowing, so we can't come today. There's 30 to 50 animals that can't get done. And it's a huge inconvenience for everyone. So having an alternate day ready to go, and then being able, in our case, because at our warehouse we can do clinics, we have those clinic days as a standby, and then if we don't need it because the weather is great, then we just open it to the public so that we can do more animals.
That is awesome. All right. And so I'm going to ask you a little bit again about training in students, and so a couple of those questions have come up. So do you you mentioned vet students and including them, you know, whether they're in vet school, or what about like pre-vet? Is that a thing, like where people declare themselves as pre-vet? How is the best way for them to participate? Are they like techs? Are they other support staff? How do you loop them in?
Yeah, so in Ohio, again, like technicians have to be licensed. So a veterinary student can work like a technician because they can do basically all the things that a veterinarian can do under the direct supervision of a veterinarian. So veterinary students definitely can become involved in high quality, high volume sterilization clinics to learn efficient techniques to get more exposure. As far as pre-vet students, then they would be more of an assistant. So there is, in Ohio, there is a list of permissible activities for assistants and technicians. There's a huge list that literally details what kind of things assistants can do and what kind of things technicians can do. But it is great information or great experience for pre-vet students to work at a clinic and do as many of those things as possible. Because one of the things that I see is that there are people that go into vet school with very little experience in different veterinary clinics or different veterinary settings. So they have a false expectation of what vet school is going to be and what the veterinary career is going to be. And then they get into vet school and they are completely disappointed, but they're already in there and they don't want to get out and they already have loans and it just becomes this whole ordeal. So definitely, if you are pre-vet, if you're thinking that you want to be a veterinarian, work at not just one clinic, go volunteer, go shadow a lot of different facilities and see what veterinary medicine is all about. And yeah, for the veterinary students, you know, work as technicians so that you can get better skills.
And then we, as you know, as a facilitator of training opportunities, and for anyone out there that's welcoming vet students in, like, do you have any like pro tips for building a successful program to keep students involved and like help them learn, like pros and cons?
Yeah, so one of the things is you want to let them know what to expect. You want to upfront tell them this is what how things are going to go. You want to let them be hands-on, and yeah, it doesn't mean that you're just going to bring them in and on the first day have them do a big dog spay. That's not what I'm talking about. But you want to let them be hands-on because that's what they're looking for, and that's how people learn. So we want to be inviting, we want to be encouraging, and then we want to have things structured. Our student program is very structured. So when the vet students come in, it doesn't matter if they're first years or third years. They're going to start very basic. They're going to show me that they can do a physical exam, that they can take pulse and respirations, that they can give vaccines, that they can draw blood, that they can do things with the patients on intake. Then after that, the second step is they're going to start doing anesthesia because they already know how to do the exams. They already know how to hit veins. Now they're going to start calculating drugs, calculating sedation, sedating and inducing patients, and then prepping and recovering. After that, then they start getting actual surgical techniques. And we break it down in cat neuters, dog neuters, cat space, and dog space. And it goes in order of difficulty, but each step trains them for the next one. So they do cat neuters until their fingers want to fall out, until their wrist can't handle it anymore, right? So they're going to do like 30 to 50 cat neuters at least before they move on. But they're learning how to do autoligation, which is a necessary technique for the cat space. I don't want them learning how to do autoligation in the middle of a cat spay. I want them to get to the cat spay to learn the cat spay techniques. So with the dog neuter, they're learning to do the skin incisions. They're learning to do the modified Miller's knots, which they're going to need for the other space. So every technique teaches them for the next thing, and doing lots and lots of the same surgery in the same day because repetition is key. The students, it's amazing to see them. They come in and they'll take an hour doing their first surgery, and then the next surgery is 45 minutes. It's a huge improvement. And then the next one, it's less. And they keep seeing how good they're getting. That increases confidence, and that gets them like bought into the whole high volume sterilization. So, you know, moving them along that, and then once they're really comfortable with surgery techniques, then we start working on other things like mass removals. We see a lot of kittens that unfortunately need enucleations. We teach them how to do enucleations. We teach them to do the things that they are going to see in shelter practice and in community practice.
That is great information for sure. And we've talked a lot about mentorship and trying to be as welcoming as possible to the next generation, right? We need more hands on deck, not less. And so whatever we can do to build successful programs and welcome folks in. And so I'm going to jump around a little bit. We do have some more questions about just the logistics of running a mobile clinic. So do you have any tips for dealing with the public on a mobile clinic? And how do you just make drop off and pick up run smoothly?
So again, it all comes down to communication. So you want to tell people what to expect. One of the biggest complaints is people have this false expectation that they're dropping up at 8 in the morning, and by noon they're like, why is my cat not done? Well, because when you checked in at 8 in the morning, 49 other people checked in as well. So everybody got checked in at the same time. If you don't communicate with people, they get angry. When you let them know what to expect, then they understand. Have everything in writing. Have it on your website. Have it on paper. Let the organizers know what's happening so that they can inform people ahead of time when to fast the animals, not to fast kittens and puppies. What things they need to bring in. And then when people come in to pick up, having everything, all the discharge instructions written, have somebody go over it with them, but then still be able to handle it with them. You're not gonna satisfy everyone. Now, I will say that the majority of people that we see at these clinics are super thankful that we're there. When we were in the brick and mortar general practice, we had a lot of people that were upset, that were angry. And it was not really because of what we were doing. It was just a reflection of their fears and them being upset because they were not there because they wanted to. They were there because they had to. So they were already upset. But the people that are coming to these low-cost spay neuter clinics are coming because they want to, and they're really, really thankful. So the compassion fatigue, the strain on the staff tends to be very minimal. When somebody is upset, don't get upset back with them. Just try to bring them down. Try to understand what's happening. It could be a misunderstanding. It could be lack of education. So just talking it out.
And then when it comes to, I know you deal with a lot of controlled substances and medications. So how do you lock up the drugs on a mobile unit?
So we have a controlled drug cabinet inside of the unit that it is locked. So same as if you would have it in a clinic. And when the truck is at the warehouse is locked up and it has an alarm. So it would be the same as if you had your controlled substance in a room inside of your clinic. The room happens to be the mobile unit. Each unit has its own controlled substance logbook. So we bring drugs from the main cabinet into the units, and then we log them out of the main box into the unit log, and we keep track of everything individually.
Now, for the mobile unit where you might be rolling in and then rolling out, how do you deal with any like post-operative complications or other things that come up afterward?
So we give individuals a list of emergency clinics and hospitals that are available in their area. And then they also have, our phone number is really difficult to get a hold of us because, as you can imagine, people are calling constantly just to find out about clinics where they can take get their animals taken care of. But we also have an email address, and through that email address, it gets checked more frequently, and we're able to help them out. So in quite a few cases, we can meet them somewhere. We can have them come to our main clinic or to a clinic nearby. In other occasions, then we have to refer them to local clinics.
All right, and so then we have a couple questions about the vehicle itself. So what is the maintenance schedule like on a mobile clinic?
So we have a truck that is a Freightliner truck. So the maintenance on that truck is supposed to be just once a year, that it just goes in to get fluids checks and all that stuff. And then the generator and the oil in the truck, you just need to have somebody that's comfortable with doing oil changes and filter changes. With anybody can do it. I can do it, so anybody can do it. The other trucks, kind of similar. We have a GMC and now we have a Ford. So they need oil changes a little bit more frequently than the Freightliner, but still, just about, I would say every 6 to 12 months, you want to have everything checked. Without the truck, you can't work. So the truck is the most important thing to take care of. You want to make sure that it's up to date, that you schedule service dates, and that you have people paying attention to fluid levels and stuff to keep it running.
And do you know, like, generally what the cost of these mobile units are, like off the, I don't know, off the lot? Is that the right word?
Yeah, it depends on what kind of things you want to have or you need to have in your truck. And these trucks have gone up in price significantly. So for the really smaller trucks, probably about 250,000, and the bigger trucks are going to be closer to 300 to 350,000. Now that is the truck and the clinic part of the truck built in. So that will include the cages, the surgery tables, the scale, the refrigerator, you know, the anesthesia machines, everything that is part of the clinic. So that's where getting a mobile clinic is a little bit less expensive than a brick and mortar facility, because even though you're paying $250,000, is a lot of money, but it's less than what it would take you to build a clinic in a particular location.
And just a quick shout out to LeBoit, who is one of our sponsors and does help make some of those mobile units that we were talking about.
All our units are LaBoy clinics, so yes.
And so let's see, I think we have another question here. Sorry, it was just here. I just had it in front of me. Oh man, I lost the question. I apologize. But I am wondering if you could tell us just a little bit. I have kind of an aside, part of your bio that I didn't get to read is that you're also a forensic veterinarian. And so I'm kind of wondering if you could speak to like the cross section or intersection between the work you're doing with Spay Neuter and the mobile unit and Rascal Unit and, you know, that part of your life, and now this forensic veterinary space, and so kind of how those two intersect and what that is for you.
Yeah, so I've always been interested in forensics and criminalistics and stuff. So in 2017, I graduated from a master's of veterinary forensics from the University of Florida. And there is a huge intersection in between the like shelter work and rescue work and forensics, animal cruelty and neglect, because a lot of animal cruelty and neglect cases are seen by humane officers. They end up in shelters, they end up in humane organizations. So there is a big correlation between the two. Part of what I do work-wise is I work with either national organizations like HSUS or local organizations, humane officers and dog pounds and such, in investigating cases of animal cruelty and neglect, whether it be something like a hoarding case, you know, somebody that had too many animals that was not taken care of. And the importance of the work that we're doing, in my mind, some of these cases are preventable through affordable and accessible care, right? So the lady that has 70 cats because she started with 3 and she couldn't afford to fix them, if we come in and we take care of that with affordable and accessible care, we don't end up with that hoarding case. We don't end up with that neglect and abuse. We see animals that have horrible skin conditions that are secondary to fleas, and it is cruelty by neglect. Well, with our services, affordable care, we can offer treatment to that animal at a cost that the owner can't afford, and then we're eliminating that neglect. So it's about protecting animals, but then also helping animals and helping the people that belong to those animals.
Very important work. And so I just a couple more questions here before we let you go to enjoy the rest of your conference there. But do you have any advice for vets who are listening to this and thinking that they want to maybe start a mobile clinic or get into the mobile clinic game, as it were, but don't necessarily have enough money to buy one outright?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing is going to be work with somebody, right? Like go get a lot of experience, build your skills, build your confidence, and build your reputation with the community. I would think that there are facilities that are going to be welcoming to people that want to expand and want to go somewhere else. So, you know, get better at what you're doing. If you are in the nonprofit side, there are places that, like rural areas, that are in need, that I'm sure there are grants and opportunities to be able to do something. The first truck, 18 years ago, when I got Rascal 1, I had no money for this. I had not raised any money. I just thought I want to start doing this. So I went and got a lease for a truck. So I started, somebody lent me $10,000 because the banks wouldn't give me any money because I was brand new at it. So somebody lent me $10,000. I got a loan for a truck, and then the rest became history. So lack of funds is an issue that is important, but it's not something that should stop you from being able to do it if you have a plan.
The plan is key. Someone said, Dr. G, do you ever sit down?
I sit down at the end of the day. I sit down when I'm driving to and from clinics. But during a surgery day, I will tell you, I do not sit down, and my staff usually doesn't sit down either.
And so I guess last question, I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your podcast, the Animal Welfare Junction, what it is you do over there.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm the host of the creator of the Animal Welfare Junction podcast, and it is available at all podcast service providers. And it is a podcast to provide education, and it's education on animal welfare. We have everything from TNR to how to take care of a rabbit to wildlife information, and then a lot of forensic cases that I have worked with. So cases that are about animal cruelty from beginning to end. How they got identified, how they got managed, and what the end process was. So yeah, please follow, rate, like, share the Animal Welfare Junction wherever you listen to your podcast.
All right, I think we have asked you a bajillion questions, but if you have anything else that you would like to ask Dr. G, please let us know. We'll make sure that she gets those questions. But thank you so much, Dr. G. I think, again, just your support and the work that you're doing, I mean, your actions say it all. So thank you for absolutely everything. It was awesome talking to you today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and I hope everybody enjoys the rest of that conference.